You know that moment when you record your whole video and everything goes well, everything else is fine, but then you start to edit it and you don't like how your hair looks because you haven't been to a professional hairdresser and this side of your hair is longer than this side of your hair, and you try to even it up yourself, but this side of your hair is still longer than this side of your hair, so you put this on and then record the video all over again. Yeah. Where we are. What's up everyone, my name is Morgan Lee and welcome back to my channel. So today is part 2 of my Writing While Neurodivergent series, and we are talking to authors or writers who want to include more neurodivergent characters in their fiction. And why would you not want to? So this video is going to be 5 tips for you to consider when you are wanting to include more neurodivergent characters in your work. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get on into the video. Last week, I posted my Writing While Neurodivergent that explained a little bit about what neurodivergence is and my personal experiences with being autistic, having ADHD, and OCD. So if you haven't seen that video, you can click the card up here and go check that out. I'd greatly appreciate it. Leave a comment over there. But today it is a message to writers, so writers of all neurotypes, information or tips for you to consider when you are trying to include more diverse and specifically neurodivergent characters. Tip number 1, know what you're talking about. As I said in the other video, the term neurodivergent is an umbrella term that encompasses a lot of different disorders, a lot of different conditions. So you can't just say, I'm writing a neurodivergent character, because what does that mean? Are you writing an autistic character? Are you writing somebody with Tourette's syndrome? Are you writing somebody that has dyslexia? Whatever. What are you writing about? You have to know specifically what type of neurodivergence your character has. Because again, we are all different. We are not a monolith. Just because one person with ADHD does this does not mean all people with ADHD do that. We'll dive a little bit deeper as the tips go on, but that is the first and most important one. You have to know specifically what you're talking about when you say neurodivergent. The second tip that I have is to do your research. I separated this into 2 types of research: the scientific research and the personal research. So on the scientific side over here, you have just your basic knowledge. You can Google what is whatever it is that this character has, and you can get all the scientific answers, the traits, the symptoms. You can get all that information scientifically. Basic information, what is this thing? And on the personal side, you need to talk to people who actually have whatever it is your character has. If your character is autistic, talk to autistic people. You need to be specific. You need to talk to the people who actually deal with it. This is important because on the scientific level, you can understand what a thing is, but still not have full understanding of how it affects somebody in their actual everyday life. For example, doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, they have their textbook information of ADHD, OCD, autism, but they still don't understand because a lot of them don't dive deeper into the personal and talking to people who are actually living with whatever condition, experience, neurotype that they have. You know, you can't fully understand something if you only know one side of the story. Tip number 3 is to know your stereotypes, tropes, myths, misinformation. Know all of those things, all of the things that people believe about this condition, because you need to be sure that you don't perpetuate harmful, let me say that again, so that you don't perpetuate harmful stereotypes in your fiction. We want representation, and we want good representation. So know your stereotypes. So now I'm just gonna give you a little bit of an example of some common stereotypes from the neurodivergencies that I have. So autism, ADHD, and OCD. Common misconceptions and myths about autism are as follows. Autism only occurs in boys. Autism is caused by vaccines. Autistic people are aggressive. Autistic people can't love, which is awful. Autistic people don't have empathy. Autistic people can't communicate. Autistic people can't take care of themselves. Autistic people are either unintelligent or we are geniuses. No in between. Common stereotypes and myths for ADHD. ADHD is just an excuse to be lazy. Only kids have ADHD. ADHD is the result of bad parenting. ADHD You just outgrow that when you get older. Adults don't have ADHD. There is only one type of ADHD. Common misconceptions and stereotypes of OCD. OCD is just about being clean and sorting your M&Ms by color. OCD is not that big of a deal. All people who like things clean have OCD. OCD is a personality trait. And I say that because people all the time say, oh my gosh, I'm so OCD. No, you either have OCD or you don't. But anyway, those are the common misconceptions and stereotypes and myths that are perpetuated about my 3 disorders. Sometimes I'm like, is disorder the right word? I feel like that's not the right word, but I don't know what else to call it. So if I'm saying the wrong word, let me know in the comments. Those are the things that people say about my 3 little neurodivergencies. Those are the things that always get perpetuated in the media. If there's an OCD character, then they're usually going to be cleaning. If there's an autistic character, they're either going to be nonverbal or they're going to be a genius. And I don't want to say that, since that came out of my mouth, I'm not conflating not speaking with intelligence. Not what I'm trying to do, but I often feel like that is what we see in media. Know your stereotypes. Make sure you're not perpetuating any stereotypes. Talk to people who have the thing and talk to multiple people because not everybody has the same experiences. We're done with that point. Tip number 4, and this is a question. It says diversity for the sake of diversity. That's not really a question. It's kind of a question. This point is to make sure that you are not including diversity for the sake of diversity. And what I mean when I say that, don't make this person's difference their entire personality. Don't make that the only thing about them. Like, this is the OCD character. Everything about her is just revolved around her OCD. This character is autistic. That's it. She's just autistic. She doesn't have any other traits at all. Just the autism. That's it. That just makes it more harmful and I think easier to perpetuate the harmful stereotypes because that person doesn't exist. Like they're a caricature. They're just a cardboard cutout just so you can have a diverse cast. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say about that, but don't include characters just for the sake of including them. Flesh out their personalities. Make them a whole person. Don't make their whole identity their thing. Their neurodivergence, their race, their gender, whatever. This could be blanketed over my whole Writing While series. Don't make that person not a full person because society already does that with marginalized people. People already see people who are different than them as simply that thing. And I think that is very harmful. My advice is to not do that by fully fleshing out your characters. And if it's a side character, that thing probably shouldn't even be mentioned because if they're a side character who doesn't have any value to the story for you to flesh out their character enough, then you don't need to mention that just to like sprinkle in some diversity. Again, all of my opinion. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. And tip number 5, I have another question for you. Are you the right person to tell this story? I put this question in here because I feel like there are 2 types of ways to include more diversity in fiction. There's own voices type over here, where the book is about being that thing. So if I wanted to write a book, which I already am, about being autistic and being Black, that would be my story to tell because I am those things. Even if it's a fictional story, if the core idea, the core story is about that character being autistic and being Black, that would be part of my story to tell. If on the other hand, I wanted to write a main character who was a trans man, if the story is about the experience of being a trans man, I cannot write that story because I am not. The difference though, that's the own voices category, which we very much need more of. On the other hand, which I hear this question a lot from different communities or different areas of community and stuff. Should I write this character because I'm not this thing, or do I have to write this character? So the other part is, are they simply a person with a thing? Like, are they simply a person who is autistic? And the story is not about them being autistic. That is just another dynamic to their character. Go ahead and write that story, do all your research, talk to people, and write the dang thing. That we also need a lot more of. Those are 2 separate things. Sometimes I feel like people can jump down people's throats, be like, well, you shouldn't tell that story because you're not this. And it's like some instances that is totally true and valid. In other instances it's not. And that's kind of where I draw the distinction. If that is simply a part of their character and the story itself is not about that as a whole, then I do feel like, not that you need my permission, but it is acceptable to write that character. I hope I'm making sense. I'm gonna stop talking because I feel like I'm gonna unravel everything I just said. Again, people might have different opinions than me, and I would love to hear them down in the comments below how you handle writing diverse characters in your fiction. Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree? And how do you approach it? I'm gonna leave it at that. Those are all of my tips in order to help you write more neurodivergent characters. This one was a little bit more generic. I feel like it could be spread across writing multiple types of people, but this is where we are today. I forgot to do the bonus tip. The bonus tip is to hire sensitivity readers. You cannot skip this step. If you're including characters who are not like you, who are part of a marginalized community, you need to hire sensitivity readers, and not just one or two, because everyone will have different experiences. And even if you are part of this group or community that you are writing about, still hire sensitivity readers, because everybody's experiences are not the same. And there are things like internalized racism, internalized ableism that you might be dealing with, you might not even know. So hearing somebody else's perspective on if something is offensive or something is done or said wrong is essential. And yeah, that is like the most valuable tip that will be at the end of every one of these videos. Hire sensitivity readers. You need them, love them, cherish them. So that is all I have for you all today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Comment down below, let me know your thoughts on the video. Subscribe if you're not subscribed, and we'll see you next time with another video.